environmentalists in the Arctic are saying, I told you so. On Monday night, an oil rig being used by Royal Dutch Shell ran aground, threatening to dump 150,000 gallons of petroleum into the Gulf of Alaska. So far, Shell has spent 6 years and more than $4 billion trying to extract oil from the Arctic region, despite warnings from environmentalists that drilling in the area is high risk and that it could have a catastrophic impact on one of the most pristine, unique, and beautiful landscapes on Earth. Now that Shell is scrambling to control their crippled oil rig, the world can see that the environmentalists were right. Joining me now for the latest out of Alaska and what this means for the ecosystem there is Shannon Moore, journalist and radio host of the Shannon Moore Show, nightly on KOAN 95.5 FM and 1020 AM Anchorage, and also the TV host of More Up North. Shannon, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Happy New Year, Tom.
Well, thank you, and the same to you. It's great to see you. Environmentalists have been warning about the dangers of drilling in the Arctic for as long as anybody's been talking about doing it. How did something like this actually happen?
Well, you know, it's curious. The Obama administration really helped this through, and it was really hard for me last year when Ken Salazar, when asked about his plans for dealing with, what were we going to do if there was a spill in the Arctic? We don't know how to clean up oil under ice, and it's so precarious. The environment is so precarious there. What was he going to do? And he actually said, I don't believe there will ever be a spill, which, is sort of the abstinence program, I think, for some people that end up to be parents as teenagers. I don't think it's really going to happen, but it has been this amazing chain of incompetence with Shell doing this project. Everything from not being able to get permits, they keep blaming, the feds for that. Their oil spill containment barge, still in Seattle. It was actually in a harbor there and being cited. I think they got 4 fines for dumping, for polluting the harbor. That was their oil spill containment project. So it has just been time after time, this whole project. And this latest with the Kulik, this is an oil rig that's floating. It's shaped like a cone. It should have never, ever left the harbor in Dutch Harbor going into the storm it went into, and you can see the disaster that it is.
Yeah. How are the people of Alaska reacting to Shell's plans to drill in the Arctic and just this whole thing? I know that, there's been a very pro, let's get some oil, let's get our $2,000 a year check sort of thing, from many Alaskans for a lot of years, but the pipeline things, general support. Or do I have that wrong? And how is this affecting them, and may it change Alaskans' perspectives?
Well, you're right. You bring up the permanent fund dividend, which is our royalties go, tax and royalties go into one account, and we get divvied up the interest every year. So I think the Simpsons movie said it best, here's your $1,000, now we can do whatever we want, when the Simpsons came across the border. Mm-hmm. But Alaskans are really pro-development. We felt for a long time, I think, that you can have both. And the Exxon Valdez spill definitely taught a lot of us fishermen something different about that. And we've been really concerned about drilling in the Arctic Ocean, in the Beaufort and Chukchi Seas. Now, I'm an environmentalist, and some people would like to pull that card when I say, for God's sake, go drill ANMR first, because it's on land. You can clean it up on land. If you have to drill there first. But as far as the Arctic, people are really torn, because there's a lot of jobs and a lot of industry here that is based on the petroleum industry, clearly. But having seen how Shell operates and how ludicrous it is that they would even be out, in this storm. We had 100-mile-an-hour storm coming in. They left Dutch Harbor, which is far out on the Aleutian chain, and what they're suspected of, many Alaskans are, is that on January 1st, whatever boat, whatever vessel is sitting at a harbor has to pay a tax to the borough or to the town that it's in, to the harbor that it's in. So there are fishermen who will leave the harbor right before the 1st of January and mysteriously come back a week later, and they've avoided paying their taxes. Now, in that borough, it would have been $13.30 per $1,000 of the worth of the vessel. So barring any caps on that, it would have been probably between somewhere in $6 and $8 million in tax they would have had to pay if they would have been in port on the 1st of January. They left. They had one tugboat, which which ended up swamping. And they're like, we're going to do an investigation. It's like, you were in a huge storm. You got socked by water and it shut down all 4 of your engines, and they've lost the tow lines 5 times. So it's not just the 142,000 gallons of fuel that's on board, it's hydraulic fuel. We're trying to find out if there's drilling mud on board. Over 150,000 gallons of petroleum products in one of the most precious places. I mean, you wouldn't have somebody come and pour oil in your refrigerator, but that's how a lot of Alaskans feel in that part of our state.
That's amazing. Shannon, thanks so much for sharing your perspective and what's going on up there in Alaska with us.
Always a pleasure, Tom.
Thank you. And the bigger picture here is this. Big Oil's insatiable thirst for more oil profits is leading the industry to search for oil in some of the riskiest places on the planet at a time when we should be reducing our dependence on oil to stop global climate change. After all, we're already seeing the disastrous effects of climate change right here in the United States of America.